This story begins in the mountains known as a popular hunting spot for new adventurers. A man gathered herbs and wild berries, filling his bag with enough to complete his quest and keep some for himself. This man, Kane, was a veteran adventurer with 20 years of experience in gathering medicinal herbs. He often offered part of his harvest to the shrine of the mountain goddess as a gesture of gratitude. At the shrine, Kane left his offering and silently thanked the goddess for keeping him safe during his adventures. He found it hard to believe that someone had abandoned an idol of a deity, and he hoped the goddess wouldn't mind his simple attempt at creating a shrine. He also hoped he had honored the true goddess of the mountain. While there, he noticed a large tree standing beside the shrine, a tree he was certain hadn't been there earlier in the day. Curious, Kane approached the tree and found a single fruit hanging from its branches. To his shock, it was an SSS-ranked Fruit of Revival, a rare item worth tens of millions of gold. Doubting its authenticity, he read a description from his personal notes that explained the fruit's mysterious nature. Once picked, the tree would vanish, shrouded in a veil of mist. Kane watched as the tree disappeared. Convinced that the fruit was genuine, he began imagining how his life might change with such a fortune. His thoughts drifted to a woman from his past, and he realized it had been 20 years since then. Kane heard a woman frantically searching for something. When he turned around, he froze, stunned to see a woman with the same facial features as Altina, the person he had just remembered. The woman, crying, noticed the fruit Kane was holding. She explained that her friend was dying and desperately needed the fruit. She tried to pay for it, confidently pulling out her money bag, but only a few silver coins fell out. Confused at first, she then remembered she had spent most of her money on other ingredients for the revival potion. Kane assumed the girl had gone through a difficult journey to help her friend. He thought back to a time when he lacked the money and resources to save his own friend. Looking at the fruit, Kane handed it to the girl, who appeared confused by his gesture. He told her he didn't mind giving it away since he had just found it. The girl asked if Kane understood the value of the Fruit of Revival, saying it was worth enough to buy a castle. Kane replied that she had already shared her situation, and he simply wanted to help. He wondered if she would still doubt his intentions. Picking up her 3 silver coins, he accepted them as payment, then patted her head, reminding her that her friend was still waiting for her help. Realizing he had used his dirty glove, Kane felt awkward, but the girl didn't seem to mind. As the sun set, Kane remembered he needed to submit herbs to the guild. He told the girl she should also head back, wished her well, and left. The girl stood speechless, hugging the Fruit of Revival tightly. The next morning, Kane greeted the inn's landlady. She noticed his cheerful mood. Kane shared that he had earned some extra money and enjoyed a dinner of grilled meat with a C-ranked adventurer he knew. The landlady was happy for him, saying it seemed like God was watching over him, but she also felt sorry that he didn't have a wife. As Kane headed out, he found himself thinking about getting married. Kane arrived at the guild, where people called him the Weed Picker, and said he was an embarrassment to adventurers. He was a D rank but often acted like he was S rank. Altena, the receptionist, greeted him with some news. She announced that Kane had received an invitation from the famous S-ranked party, the Blooming Rosen Maidens. Kane looked confused, and Altena realized he didn't know who they were. She explained that the group was made up of 3 of the strongest individuals: the Pure Saint, the Almighty Witch, and the Godspeed Sword Princess. They were staying in the area for an important mission. Kane insisted it had to be a mistake. He said he was just a lowly D-rank adventurer and thought they must have meant another Kane. Altena admitted she also thought it was a mistake, but explained she had to process all requests. She reminded him that he had wanted to join a party before. Kane told her not to worry and asked for a regular quest instead. Altena handed him a request from the church to collect potion ingredients, with a reward of 1 silver coin. Kane accepted it, joking that since he was the only one who always took this quest, they should reuse the same paper to save resources. Later, Altena took a break and knelt in front of a familiar girl. The girl was actually Anastrea Armillion, the Godspeed Sword Princess. She couldn't believe Kane had turned down the invitation, and blamed Elena for not being persuasive enough. One of the girls asked Elena to stand up, while another told Anastrea not to look so upset. These 2 were Saphiria Clement, the Pure Saint, and Maya Reen, the Almighty Witch. Saphiria wondered if Kane had a special reason for refusing. Maya joked that anyone would turn down someone who snooped into their personal information. Anastrea froze, realizing Kane might have been creeped out and was avoiding her. Maya found her reaction amusing and noticed that Kane only seemed to talk to Altena. Comparing herself to Altena, Anastrea felt inadequate. She also regretted giving Kane the impression that she relied too much on money to solve problems. Altena asked if she could share a suggestion. She mentioned how Kane always accepted requests from the church. Anna remembered these were the quests that paid only a single silver coin, and thought the guild might be forcing him to take them. Altena explained that the church ran an orphanage, but they were struggling financially and couldn't afford to pay more. They could only support themselves by making and selling potions. Without Kane's help, the orphanage would have collapsed, and the children would have ended up on the streets. Safiria felt moved and didn't realize Kane had been working for such a reason. However, Anna found it odd since Kane should have demanded more when he handed over the fruit of revival. She suspected Altena was trying to charm Kane with her older woman tactics. Altena wanted to respond to Anna's spoiled remarks but held back to stay calm. Maya then suggested Anna ask her family for money. Anna snapped, saying this wasn't a problem money could solve. She mentioned seeing Kane's rundown house and how he still gave away the expensive revival fruit without hesitation. Maya teased Anna for knowing where Kane lived, calling it creepy. Safiria got emotional, realizing she owed her life to Kane and said she wanted to thank the church as well. Anna insisted on paying Kane back for saving her life. Maya found her teammates annoying and told them to focus on their tasks. She then asked Anna why their party was even formed. Anna replied it was to enjoy tea time with beautiful women. Maya pointed out that Kane, despite helping Safiria, was just an old man who didn't belong in their group and rejected the idea of him joining them. She also reminded them that Kane was only a D ranker and suggested they simply pay him if he needed money. Anna glared at Maya and said she would think of something. Maya couldn't believe Anna wasn't listening at all. Kane was happy to find some garlic and planned to give it to his master for stir-fry. He took more than he needed and started heading back home. On the way, he thought about stopping by the shrine but came across some goblins. He noticed they were inspecting something, but instead of approaching them, he decided to move past quietly before they noticed him. Their sudden appearance worried him, so he planned to report them for subjugation later. While walking, Kane wasn't paying attention and bumped into something. At first, he thought it was a boulder, but it turned out to be a dragon. He was shocked and wondered why a dragon was in a beginner's area. This was actually Anna's plan to help Kane rank up by having him fight an evil dragon. Maya couldn't believe this was Anna's idea and regretted not stopping her earlier when she saw Anna leading the dragon to the area. Maya pointed out that Kane's equipment wasn't suited for something like this. Safiria claimed it wasn't a problem, and Anna added that even a D-rank adventurer could easily defeat a dragon. Maya sighed, remembering how off both girls' sense of logic was. Anna told her not to worry about Kane's equipment, but when she called out to him, Kane had already started running away from the dragon. Kane was in full panic mode, sprinting as fast as he could. Even the goblins nearby were running away in fear. Then Kane noticed the sword the goblins had been inspecting earlier. He grabbed it and took a slashing stance as the dragon charged at him with its mouth wide open. However, instead of attacking, Kane dodged at the last second. Anna was stunned that Kane chose to flee instead of using the mithril sword, but Maya thought he had made the right choice. Anna tried to argue, but Maya corrected her. Kane kept running and dodging the dragon's attacks until he tripped. He barely avoided a deadly blow and realized how close he was to dying. Though he wanted to keep running, he knew he couldn't go back to the village. It would put everyone there in danger. As the dragon approached, Kane gripped his sword tightly and remembered the request to protect the village. The memory gave him the courage to stand up and swing the mithril sword. Maya angrily questioned what the old man was doing. Kane, tired of bad memories haunting him, acted with determination. However, the heavy sword slipped from his grasp mid-swing. He realized he had made a terrible mistake as the sword flew into the air. The dragon lunged at Kane to attack. While the other girls stood frozen, Maya tried to help, but Kane's attention was fixed on the sword falling back down. He closed his eyes, bracing himself, but then heard a sharp sound. When he opened his eyes, the dragon was flinching in pain. Blood poured from its head where the sword had landed, and Kane thought it was dead. To his shock, the dragon got back up to attack again. Kane prepared for the worst, but the dragon collapsed to the ground for good. Kane was confused, wondering what had just happened. Maya couldn't believe she had just witnessed a miracle. Anna started praising Kane for his brilliant plan of throwing the sword upward, but Maya argued that it was just a fluke. Anna disagreed, believing that Kane had shown the skills of a swordmaster. Maya gave up on Anna and hoped Safiria would be more sensible. However, Safiria was also amazed when she saw the gentle ray that protected Kane. Anna then said there wouldn't be any more problems, and Maya asked what she meant. Anna explained that she wanted Kane to join them once he ranked up. Maya told her not to try winning her over with cute expressions. Anna pointed out that Kane now had the mithril sword, which he earned by slaying the dragons. The reward would help him improve his equipment, and people were starting to notice his skill as a swordsman. She believed that Kane would soon become a renowned swordsman like her. Maya didn't care anymore and curled up in the corner. Kane then noticed their presence, and the girls began to leave. Knowing that Kane had a keen sense of observation, Kane wondered if he was imagining things. He then suddenly felt a warm power rising within him. He assumed it was the protection of the goddess and decided he would thank her properly later. However, he had a problem. He didn't know how to deal with the dragon. The next morning, Altena looked tired while working at the guild reception. Kane appeared and asked if she was exhausted from the evil dragon corpse he had reported. Altena told him not to worry because the appraisal had been handled by another department. She said she was just tired from some receptionist duties. The night before, Anna had angrily complained that Kane still hadn't ranked up even after the evil dragon subjugation. She wanted to talk directly to the guild leader. Altena explained that Kane had only discovered the corpse, not subjugated it. Anna insisted that she had seen what happened and believed Kane was just being modest. She ordered Altena to promote Kane to A rank. Altena apologized and explained how the dragon's organs had already been damaged, so Kane couldn't have dealt such damage. Maya also knew it was a fake after watching Anna beat up the dragon. Altena suspected Anna had planted the mithril sword, giving more reason not to rank up Kane. Anna admitted she had set up the situation for Kane. Altena then explained that the guild's rank system was based on a person's true strength and was meant to ensure adventurers took on quests that were suitable for them, to protect the weaker ones. Anna couldn't argue with this. Altena thanked Anna and her team for keeping the kingdom safe but reminded her of their recent battle where Safiria had nearly lost her life. She pointed out that even the Godspeed Sword Princess hadn't been able to protect her. Altena said a D rank like Kane would have been killed if he had been with them. She promised to protect the adventurers under her care and asked Anna not to drag Kane into their battles. Back in the present, Kane snapped Altena out of her thoughts. She went through the rewards for reporting the evil dragon and giggled as she showed him 6,000 gold coins, which were converted into 6 platinum coins. Altena was surprised by Kane's unenthusiastic reaction. Kane, however, had only been shocked for a moment. He thought the platinum coins were beautiful, and Altena explained they were made using advanced alchemy, and that it was her first time seeing them. Kane compared them to receiving 3 silver coins every day. Altena asked if he would exchange one for gold coins, but Kane refused, saying it would be a hassle to carry them around for now. Altena then shared that the owner of the mithril sword had been found. She repeated Anna's words, asking Kane to keep the sword since Anna had already bought a new one. Altena also mentioned that the original owner didn't want to go through the trouble of retrieving it. She felt angry thinking about Anna's childishness. In the end, Kane received 6 platinum coins and a mithril sword. He decided to visit the orphanage and found Sister Sylvia being harassed by loan sharks. Sylvia asked them to wait one more week for the funds from selling potions. The loan shark told her there was one more way to pay them back, by selling herself for one night. A high elf like her could easily earn a lot of money. Sylvia reminded them that she was a nun. The loan shark then suggested using some of the children in her care to pay for their debt. At that moment, Kane stepped forward, angry, and asked what they were doing on holy ground. He noticed a man with snake tattoos who turned out to be an A-ranked adventurer named Snakehead. He was part of a notorious familia in the area. Snakehead's glare sent chills down Kane's spine. The loan sharks told Kane to leave, but then remembered he was the one who found the evil dragon's corpse. They suggested he pay off the church's 200 gold debt to look good. Kane asked how much they needed, and one of the loan sharks said the amount was already mentioned. Kane asked for the entire debt. Snakehead then asked if Kane could pay 6,000 gold in full. The others laughed, thinking a shabby old man like Kane couldn't have that much money. Kane pulled out the 6 platinum coins he had recently received and offered them. Snakehead then asked his men for the contract. He reminded them that they were lawful moneylenders and that there would be no problems as long as the debt was paid in full. He gave the contract in exchange for the platinum coins. Snakehead apologized to Sylvia for the trouble and told her to come by if she ever needed money again. After the loan sharks left, Kane's legs gave out. Sylvia apologized for the trouble and for making him pay a loan he was forced to help with. Kane said it was easy money and that he needed to pay back the debt from when they raised him in the orphanage. He then asked why she had to borrow money. Sylvia explained that the children had been selling flowers and small items in town, but members of the familia kept taking a portion of their earnings, claiming it was a tax payment from 100 years ago. Kane couldn't believe they were demanding rental fees. Sylvia then shared how the familia was working with the town magistrate, and the church had been tricked into thinking they were evading taxes. Sylvia apologized, realizing Kane's reward for his herb-gathering quest would be lower. Kane finally understood what was really going on, and told Sylvia not to worry about it. However, based on what Kane had just heard, it seemed someone was interested in buying Sylvia, and she might be their real target. Sylvia mentioned that she had some good news to share. At that moment, the kids ran over and jumped toward Kane. He reassured them that everything was fine now. Kane thanked the oldest kid for taking care of the younger ones. Kid admitted he hadn't been able to do much either. Kane told him not to worry and suggested they could have some snacks later. In the distance, Anna, Maya, and Safiria were watching the scene. Maya called Kane soft-hearted, while Safiria felt moved by his kindness. Anna was annoyed that the money meant for equipment had been spent on something else. Maya then said the gang might cause trouble later, and Anna suggested dealing with them. Instead of joining them, Safiria went inside. quietly saying that Kane was the one. Meanwhile, the loan sharks were complaining about how Kane had ruined their plans. They had wanted to sell the beastmen among the kids. Snake had told them to stop talking about such things in public. Since they had failed to take Sylvia too, the loan shark suggested getting rid of Kane. Snakehead reminded them that harming a fellow adventurer was a serious crime. He mentioned hearing rumors about an increase in monsters in the Wolfberry Mountains, and more adventurers dying there. He noted that it wouldn't be a crime to claim items from someone who had died in the mountains. Maya asked if they should deal with the gang right away. Anna suggested waiting for the gang to attack Kane at Wolfberry Mountain. She expected Kane to defeat the two C-ranked adventurers and finally rank up. She wanted him to show his true strength. Maya, not wanting to hear another one of Elena's lectures, asked Safiria to say something. It was then they realized Safiria was missing. At the orphanage, Kane was playing with the kids when Sylvia approached him with healing and antidote potions, as thanks for saving them. Kane said he couldn't accept something so valuable, but Sylvia insisted, saying she had planned to give them to him since they were like family. The kids also gave Kane some of their toys as gifts, which made him feel touched and grateful. Kane then asked Sylvia about the good news she had mentioned earlier. Sylvia shared that the Pure Saint was coming to the area and hoped she would visit their church and orphanage. Kane thought the title sounded familiar. At that moment, the same Pure Saint entered the orphanage. Kane asked if she was a guest. Safiria, her cheeks red, walked up to Kane and hugged him. She said he was her destiny and that she would dedicate her life to him. Kane felt something soft against him and asked Safiria how old she was. When she said she was only 13, Kane was shocked. He told her he appreciated her feelings but couldn't be in a relationship with a minor. While Kane panicked, the kids cheered. Kane asked Sylvia for help. Sylvia realized who Safiria was and immediately knelt before her. She introduced Safiria to Kane as the Pure Saint. Kane quickly knelt out of respect, which made Safiria flustered. She admitted she was the saint but said there was no need to kneel. Sylvia leaned in and whispered to Kane, explaining that Safiria was the daughter of Regis Clement, the highest-ranking priest of the Church of Adia. She had spent the last year training in the cathedral and wasn't used to casual conversations. Kane told Safiria they could take their time to discuss things. Suddenly, the door burst open and Anna stormed in, angrily asking what Safiria was doing. Safiria announced that she had already given herself to Kane, causing Anna to panic and stumble over her words. Maya asked Anna to calm down, complaining about how the two girls wandered off whenever they wanted. She used her magic to make both girls float to settle them down. Kane assumed Maya was their friend. Maya apologized for the trouble and told Sylvia that Safiria already knew about the church and orphanage's situation and had written a letter to her father. Sylvia was surprised and thanked them. Maya then excused herself, taking the girls with her. Kane thought Anna looked familiar but couldn't remember from where. That night, Safiria told the group she planned to use her Saint's Pledge on Kane. Maya, seeing Anna start to panic, told her to calm down. She explained that the pledge was a one-time blessing that gave divine power to a hero, meant to boost their strength. It could only be done once in a lifetime, and Safiria had decided to use it on Kane, an old man. Maya scolded her for not thinking it through, saying the blessing should be saved for Anna instead. However, Safiria argued that the pledge was meant for a pure-hearted person, not just for defeating evil. She believed Kane, being kind and selfless, deserved it more than the hero Anastrea. Maya found Safiria's stubbornness amusing but knew others wouldn't accept this decision. Anna, however, agreed with Safiria. She said Kane's swordsmanship was as skilled as her own, and pointed out how Safiria's faith had guided them this far. Maya couldn't argue with that, but still doubted Kane's abilities, reminding them he had stayed a D-rank adventurer for so long. Anna then brought up what Elena had told them about Kane putting down his sword while gathering herbs, claiming it showed he had hidden potential. Maya didn't quite understand but told Safiria to delay the pledge. She insisted Safiria needed her approval before meeting Kane. Safiria only pouted in response. Seeing Anna so enthusiastic, Maya started to feel their team was falling apart. Still, she thought Kane could at least be useful as a servant or comedic relief. Just then, Anna reminded them of an important event happening the next day. The following morning on Wolfberry Mountain, Kane prayed at a shrine he had built for the goddess. He left offerings and asked for her protection. Nearby, he noticed a shining set of armor left by the shrine. Unsure if it was meant for him, he decided to wear it since carrying it seemed like a hassle. As he prepared to leave, something hit his armor. Turning around, he saw the loan sharks from the day before. Kane asked why they were there, but they attacked without answering, quickly injuring his leg. They mocked him, calling him a fool for not understanding his situation. They kept targeting the gaps in his armor, ignoring Kane's reminders about the rules against infighting. Their plan was to leave him for dead, blaming monsters in the mountain for his death. Using dirt, Kane blinded one of them, a spear wielder, and used the distraction to escape. The two swore to kill him and planned to sell the orphanage children afterward. Kane moved as fast as he could, confident the attackers didn't know their way around the mountain. He aimed to reach the guild first. However, his body grew heavy and his vision blurred. One of the attackers taunted him, revealing they had used a special poison. Their group, the two-headed viper familia, was known for this technique. Kane hid behind a tree, struggling with the poison. The attacker mocked him, asking why he wasted his life helping penniless children. Kane thought of his family, remembering why he had to keep fighting. When the spear wielder searched for him, he struck at a bush, thinking Kane was hiding there. Instead, he found a bottle. Kane took the chance to leap from behind and stabbed him, killing him with one strike. Kane told the dying man Jinx that the potion he drank, a creation of the church, had saved many lives, including his own. Before Kane could catch his breath, the second attacker, Curse, appeared. Unlike his fallen partner, he claimed he was much stronger and declared Kane would not leave the mountain alive. Kane had no choice but to fight Kurtz. However, he was less experienced in swordsmanship compared to Kurtz. Kurtz showed his skill with a powerful vertical slash, claiming that he was much stronger than Jinx because of his many years as a C-ranked adventurer. Kane, feeling insulted, thought that people like Kurtz shouldn't even call themselves adventurers. He remembered that his mithril sword should be stronger than Kurtz's. Kurtz, however, felt the same way about Kane, who had wasted his years while Kurtz was busy fighting monsters and people. He pointed out that he was much stronger than a D-ranker like Kane. As the fight went on, Kane realized Kurtz's strength was that of an experienced killer. Kurtz taunted Kane, saying that a weakling like him couldn't block his sword. He also insulted Kane, saying the title of adventurer was wasted on him, calling him a fake who kept pretending to be righteous in front of the church and guild. Kurtz kicked Kane hard, sending him crashing into a tree. Kurtz tried to finish him off, but Kane managed to block the strike. Kurtz then told Kane that it was him who had drawn the church's attention to their boss. He knocked Kane aside and continued to belittle him, calling him weak and a pathetic dog who would soon lose his life. Kurtz also revealed that they planned to sell children and nuns and disgrace them, saying Kane would regret not being able to witness it. Kane, furious, kicked with all his strength, shouting that the church had nothing to do with their selfish plans. He used a smokescreen, but when Kurtz inhaled it, he realized it was powdered garlic. Kurtz staggered, hitting a stone pine tree and causing the hard pine needles to fall on him. Kane seized the opportunity and slashed at Kurtz. He then pointed out that it angered him how Kurtz and his group claimed to be strong while using tricks like poison. He said they were the pathetic ones. Kurtz tried to fight back, but his strength failed him and he dropped his sword. Kane watched as Kurtz fell to the ground and died. After the fight, Kane realized that if he hadn't had the mithril sword, he could have easily been killed. Though he hated leaving the quest unfinished, he knew he had to report the events to the guild, knowing that the familia's boss might have something planned next. After Kane left, Anna said everything had gone as planned and believed Kane had only been thrown off at the start. Safiria picked up a hard pine needle and asked what it was. Maya explained what it was and how it was used. She mentioned how strange the timing of the stone pine tree's needle rain was. Anna asked if Maya had caused the needles to drop, but Maya said she hadn't, even though she had planned to do it if things got out of control. Anna then assumed it had all been part of Kane's plan and called him amazing. Maya asked her not to give Kane too much credit, guessing the enemy's attack had caused the needles to fall. However, even when Anna punched the tree, no more pine needles fell. Everyone was confused, and Maya wondered if it was just a coincidence. Safiria then said she was sure she was right. Kane was always surrounded by a gentle warmth. Maya realized there was no reasoning with her. She told the others it was time to move on since they still had work to do. At the guild, Ellen attended to Kane and told him not to worry about the incident because the familia had attacked him first. She assured him he wouldn't be blamed since a report had already been made. She also said no one in the guild would doubt him. Kane, however, disagreed and said he was only a little shaken. Elena assured him that investigations were underway and that the two-headed viper familia would be dealt with soon. She was mostly thankful that Kane had returned without serious injuries. Kane was surprised by her words and thanked her. In his mind, though, he wondered if the familia could actually be stopped. He knew how careful Snakehead was, especially after what he had done to the church and the orphanage. Kane doubted if there would be enough evidence against them. Meanwhile, Snakehead told his team to stay calm for now. However, his men were angry that Kane had killed two of their members. Anna, Maya, and Safiria entered the office to confront Snakehead. While he complained about them trespassing, Snakehead quickly figured out that Anna was the real threat. Anna asked why they were still trying to kill Kane. Snakehead responded by questioning why they cared about an old, low-ranked man like Kane. He explained that their world would fall apart if people started walking all over them. He added that he had no reason to spare Kane after what he did to his men. But first, he planned to deal with Anna and the others. Confident in his speed, Snakehead assumed Anna wouldn't be able to block his attacks. However, his confidence was shattered when his swords broke after Anna casually deflected them with her eyes closed. She asked if he was finished. Shocked, Snakehead noticed the scarlet sword Anna carried, bearing the royal family's crest. He recognized it as the divine sword Durandana, one of only 3 divine swords in the world. Realizing who he was up against, Snakehead froze. Maya was surprised that someone like Snakehead knew about the sword. The group proudly introduced their party name, claiming they were only there to pay a visit. Snakehead couldn't believe an S-ranked party stood before him. Admitting defeat, he started apologizing. However, he argued that their loan collections were legal, unlike their intrusion. He demanded they pay for the damages caused. Snakehead, assuming Anna was just an arrogant royal, secretly prepared a hidden knife to attack her. Anna then presented a royal document granting them permission to conduct investigations. Maya added another document that gave them authority to judge and punish on the spot. Snakehead trembled as he realized the trouble he was in. Maya began listing the familia's crimes, including extortion and the attempted murder of Kane. Without hesitation, she declared an immediate execution as their punishment. Furious, Snakehead tried to target Safiria, the seemingly weakest member. But Anna was faster, swinging her sword before he could act. It was safe to say Snakehead's fate was sealed. He became just a snake. Get it? The next morning, Kane lay on his bed, unable to sleep. Sylvia rushed into the room and hugged him tightly. She asked why someone his age pushed himself so hard. Kane felt confused about what she meant, but became even more puzzled when Sylvia mentioned him storming into the 2-headed Viper Familia's building alone. She explained that she had come running as soon as she heard about it to check if he was hurt. When she saw he was fine, she felt relieved and hugged him again. Sylvia told Kane she was thankful that he cared so much about them, but she begged him not to do anything so dangerous because it was too much for her to handle. Kane apologized for making her worry. Sylvia still saw Kane as the little boy who once couldn't go to the bathroom by himself and had promised to marry her when he grew up. She couldn't believe how strong he had become, strong enough to take on an entire familia by himself. Kane let out a shocked scream. Outside the familia's base, a sign had been left declaring that Kane had punished the villains. At the tavern, the barkeeper asked Kane what had happened. Kane explained that the landlady of the inn where he was staying had shut it down and left for the capital after clearing her debt with the familia. On top of that, a sudden rush of adventurers had come into town because of a rumor, and now all the inns were full. It seemed like one problem after another for Kane. The barkeeper then joked, asking if Kane was a secret agent for the government since he had defeated a large group. Kane denied it and said the guild had already cleared up the misunderstanding. Still, the barkeeper didn't believe him and assumed Kane was now being overwhelmed with party invitations. Kane insisted he didn't want to be a burden to others and was more concerned about where he would stay for the night. While they talked, Safiria entered the tavern. Kane was surprised to see the saint in such a plain place and asked why she had come. Safiria said she needed to discuss something with him, but first they had breakfast together. Afterwards, Safiria handed him the money that had been used to protect the church. When Kane saw the platinum coins, he realized it was Safiria's team who had defeated the familia. Kane thanked her for returning the money but admitted he didn't know how to use it, so he decided to donate it to the church. He said a saint like her would put it to better use. Safiria asked if he was sure since he didn't even have a place to stay. Kane suggested using the money to feed children instead. Safiria seemed moved by his words and touched his forehead, calling him kind, humble, and devoted. She even said he was worthy of the saint's pledge, a statement Kane vaguely remembered hearing before. Suddenly, Anna and Maya burst into the tavern to stop Safiria. Anna pulled the saint in heat away from the old man, but froze when she locked eyes with Kane. She blushed and thanked him for helping her the other day. Kane then realized Anna was the same girl he had given the Fruit of Revival to, as well as part of the team that protected the church. As the three talked, the barkeeper joked about how Kane, who claimed he'd stay single forever, was winning women's hearts. Kane asked Anna why they had put up a sign with his name even though her team was the one that defeated the familia. Anna said she wanted people to see him in a better light because he was being underestimated. Kane argued it wasn't necessary since the sign didn't reflect his real strength. Still, he appreciated her kind gesture. Anna tried to introduce herself but got too nervous to speak properly. Maya introduced Anna for her, then warned Kane to stay away from the girls, saying they might lose their composure around him. She also told Kane not to approach them, then quickly pushed the girls outside. Maya asked Kane to forget what Safiria had said earlier, saying both girls tended to act on impulse. Before leaving, Maya cursed at the tavern's smell. The barkeeper and Kane both found Maya intimidating. Kane complained that the barkeeper hadn't helped him at all during the commotion. As an apology, the barkeeper gave Kane some advice: to visit the guild. Kane went to the guild after he couldn't find a place to stay. Altena told him there was an open room in the guild's staff dorm. However, she had forgotten that someone had already moved in recently. To apologize, she offered him her own room. Kane refused and tried to leave to find a place at the church. Altena stopped him, explaining that he couldn't stay under the same roof as a nun. Kane asked if he could sleep in the hallway, but Altena said that would make her worry and keep her awake. Kane gave up and went inside. Altena offered him some hot milk. She noticed his hands were shaking. Kane apologized, saying it was just nerves. Even though he had prepared himself to do this for the first time, he couldn't shake the nervous feeling. Altena misunderstood his words and thought he was nervous about being with her. She placed her hands over his and told him not to worry, saying everyone starts somewhere and it was her first time too. Altena realized her words sounded like she was inviting him to do something else. She also remembered how she had decided not to date an adventurer. Kane explained that while adventurers often fought each other, he couldn't shake the feeling of taking another person's life. He worried that Altena might think he was a coward. Altena realized she had misunderstood and got serious. She told him that it wasn't cowardly at all. She explained that his trembling hands didn't show weakness but instead proved he was a kind person. Kane was confused by her comforting words. Altena then made up her mind and pulled Kane onto her bed. She pinned him down, leaving him even more confused. With a serious expression, Altena told him how grateful she was to see him return safely, and she hoped he would stay safe in the future. She noticed that Kane looked like he hadn't slept, but she wouldn't forgive him if he didn't return alive. Kane said he understood. Altena smiled and told him to relax and get some sleep. She hugged him and Kane tried to move away, but Altena pretended to be asleep and wouldn't let him go anywhere. With tired eyes, Kane thanked Altena. Meanwhile, Anna scolded Safiria for meeting Kane without permission. Safiria said she had already promised herself to Kane and mentioned that he smelled nice. Anna admitted she wanted to do the same. Listening to them made Maya lose her patience. She liked how they acted cute but grew frustrated hearing Kane's name repeatedly. Maya's sudden outburst scared the girls, and they asked her to calm down. Maya insisted she was calm and reminded Anna of their main goal for coming to the town. Anna said it was to stop the revival of the evil god sealed in the Siddha Mountains and deal with the unusual monster outbreak that came with it. Maya was glad Anna remembered. To defeat the evil god, the hero needed to receive the saint's pledge for a power boost. Maya stated that Anna was the strongest hero in the area and should receive the pledge. With a serious look, Safiria said that defeating the evil god would not come from heroism alone, but from kindness. Maya agreed with the importance of kindness but questioned why the old man should receive it when they needed someone who could fight. Anna wanted to agree with Safiria but couldn't accept that Safiria and Kane would be part of the ceremony together. She angrily asked Safiria to reconsider. However, Safiria argued that the ceremony was not improper. Maya hit Anna lightly to calm her down. Maya then sat beside Safiria and asked for a serious explanation. She didn't want to oppose the saint's decision without understanding the reasons. Maya reminded Safiria of how she almost died fighting the evil god last time and said she didn't want that to happen again, but if the decision would lead to victory, she would accept it. Safiria explained it was just her divine intuition. Maya decided not to allow it, which made Safiria pout. Anna suggested making Kane stronger so that Maya would accept him, and Safiria agreed. With that, Anna planned to use the monster outbreak in Wolfberry Mountain to help raise Kane's rank to S. Meanwhile, Aline felt at a loss as she watched Kane sleeping deeply on his own. The next day, Kane went to the shrine he had built and gave thanks to the goddess for her blessings and protection. He mentioned that his quest rewards had increased, and the church's finances were now stable. However, he was worried about the rising number of monsters in the mountains. While he was there, he suddenly heard someone shouting for help. He ran into the forest and found goblins gathered near the edge of a cliff. He heard the voice again coming from below and realized who it was. The goblins noticed him and attacked as a group. Kane quickly drew his sword and cut them down with ease. Afterward, he looked over the cliff and saw that the person crying for help was York, the lumberjack. York called up to ask what happened to the goblins, and Kane told him they had been dealt with. York showed his injured leg and asked for help getting back to the village. Seeing the injury needed quick attention, Kane brought out a healing potion. York was surprised, knowing it was worth 10 silver coins, and refused to use it. Understanding York's hesitation, Kane used some herbs he had gathered instead. He applied them to the wound and told York to bear the stinging pain. Once the first aid was done, Kane carried York on his back. York thanked him, but Kane said that mountain dwellers should help each other. York commented that Kane was different from most adventurers. However, he also expressed concern about the growing number of monsters. He revealed that a group of goblins had built a lair in the mountains and that he had spotted a goblin lord, a B-ranked monster, among them. Kane was surprised that York still went to work despite the danger, but York explained he had no choice since he needed to earn a living. He mentioned that the village chief had already requested help from the Adventurers Guild, but he wasn't sure if the adventurers would be strong enough to defeat the goblins. Kane thought about how funding such a request was likely a burden on the poor village, and wondered if he could join the subjugation. Back in the village, Kane helped treat other injured villagers using the herbs he had collected. York's granddaughter, Katya, complained about being hungry, and York apologized to her. Kane approached them and handed Katya some bread, asking her to share it with the other children. Katya happily took the bread and ran off to share it. York remembered that Kane had once mentioned wanting his own house. Kane said it was still a far-off dream, but York reassured him that he and his carpenter friends would gladly help. Others in the sickbay also offered their assistance in building the house. Kane was surprised by their generosity and thanked them sincerely. Afterward, Kane joined the adventurers gathered in the village. He recognized some familiar faces, including villagers. He asked if he could join them, and everyone seemed happy to see him. They crowded around him, mentioning rumors about him defeating the familia. Kane said it was a misunderstanding. A young adventurer gave him a doubtful glare. Randall from the C-ranked party Bear Killers greeted Kane. Kane thanked him for the meal they shared recently. Randall joked that drinking together made the alcohol taste better. He mentioned how hard it would be to search the area for the monster's lair, and noted Kane's familiarity with the mountains. As Kane studied the map, one adventurer complained about getting help from a weed picker. Abel, the leader of the A-ranked party Comet Chasers, said a D-ranker like Kane would be useless in the fight against the Goblin Lord. Kisara, a thief and member of Abel's team, apologized to Kane and explained that Abel was upset because Kane had beaten him to the punch. Cruz, the mage of the team, added that Abel wanted to defeat Snakehead, another A-ranker, on his own. Randall thought Abel was just throwing a tantrum. Kane insisted he wasn't the one who defeated Snakehead, but the others assumed he was just being modest and still believed the rumors. Abel, annoyed by the conversation, slammed his fist on the table. He declared that he, the Comet Abel, would defeat the Goblin Lord. After storming off, Kisara laughed at Abel for claiming a nickname despite not being famous. Despite the commotion, two older adventurers continued discussing their strategy. Meanwhile, in the middle of Wolfberry Mountain, Anna thought about how impressive Kane was as she easily cut down monsters along the way. Maya told her to stop talking about him so much. Anna pointed out that the rare monsters appearing in the area might mean the evil god was nearby. She wanted to help Kane grow stronger faster. Maya asked how they could do that. Using her search spell, Maya found a monster lair. Anna suggested they clear out the weaker monsters and leave the boss half-defeated. Maya liked the idea and decided to use the monsters as a way to relieve her stress. Anna reminded her to leave some for Kane. The two watched as Maya chanted a spell. The ground began to shake, and even Kane and the other adventurers felt the tremor. Maya finished her spell, unleashing Flare Destroyer. A huge pillar of fire shot into the sky, visible from far away. Kane noticed it came from the direction he had guessed the lair would be. The entire monster lair was burned down, and even the nearby trees caught fire. Anna said Maya was going overboard and warned that her actions might get them noticed. Maya sighed, saying she was done. She had already enjoyed the explosions, which helped her feel less stressed. Safiria remarked that it had been a while since Maya showed her cruel side. As the lair collapsed, the girls wondered if any monsters were left. Maya assured them not to underestimate her control and pointed to a surviving monster, the Goblin King. Anna was surprised because they had only heard about a Goblin Lord, but she figured it wouldn't last long before Kane arrived. Maya suggested healing the monster a little. Safiria doubted it would work on a monster, but healed the Goblin King anyway. The monster screamed in pain, and they realized healing magic hurt monsters because they were considered sinners who broke God's laws. Just then, they heard footsteps approaching. Kane peeked in and looked around. He guessed a goblin magician might have been among the monsters and thought the fire spell was caused by them. He also spotted two goblin lords among the dead. Suddenly, the injured Goblin King crept behind him to attack. Abel arrived, complaining about how fast Kane moved through the mountains. His eyes widened when he saw Kane facing the Goblin King, who fell dead. Abel froze, shocked, and Kane noticed him. Randall and the others arrived soon after and were stunned. They couldn't believe the fight was already over. They were also surprised to see a Goblin King alongside the Goblin Lords. Some noticed the bodies of orcs and ogres and wondered if Kane had fought them too, but Kane denied it. Kisara admired the scene and noticed Abel's frustrated expression. Abel stomped over to Kane, bowed deeply, and apologized for being rude and calling him a weed picker. He admitted that defeating a Goblin King was something even an A-rank adventurer would struggle with. Kane brushed it off, saying he was used to the nickname. Abel felt relieved to be forgiven and declared they would be rivals from then on. Kane agreed that he had dealt the final blow but reminded them about the destructive magic spell. He claimed he only knew one spell. Cruz joined in, talking about Kane using chantless magic. Cruz got excited and compared Kane to the legendary mage Dainarine. Kane panicked and said he didn't know much about magic. Cruz misunderstood, thinking Kane had natural talent and didn't need to study magic. The younger adventurers kept praising Kane, but Randall told them to settle down. He suggested they let Kane's modesty slide, though Kane knew Randall was also misunderstanding him. Randall decided to give all the quest rewards and funds to Kane. Everyone went quiet for a moment but eventually agreed. Randall then asked Kane to treat everyone to a meal. The next day, Anna learned that Kane donated the rewards to help people affected by the monsters. The village chief confirmed the donation was anonymous but guessed it came from Kane, knowing he was the only one who understood their needs. The villagers were grateful, and the children were happy to receive sweets from Kane. York mentioned wanting to repay Kane's kindness by fixing the shrine at the base of the mountain. Anna felt proud of Kane's reputation and left with the other girls. She decided to make Kane take on more common enemies to slowly increase his rank and reputation. Maya reminded her that Kane's reputation improved this time because of his good deeds, not just his strength. Anna planned to create a new extermination quest for Kane to finish the monsters they originally aimed to defeat. Safiria pointed out that Kane preferred gathering herbs, and Maya agreed subjugation quests weren't his specialty. Anna assured them it would be fine since she would have Altena handle the details. Maya joked that Altena should quit her job. A few days later, Altena told Kane not to accept a quest addressed to him. A while ago, Anna told Altena to give the quest document she was holding to Kane, and warned her that she would punish her if she didn't. However, Altena refused, not wanting to send Kane into danger, since the quests involved killing Lord-type monsters. Anna made it clear that it wasn't a request, but an order. Back in the present, Kane asked Altena what she meant by refusing the quests, and asked to at least read them. As he tried to, someone grabbed the documents and showed that Kane was asked to defeat a Goblin Lord, Orc Lord, and Ogre Lord in the Wolfberry Mountains. Abel noticed that the quests were meant for Kane alone. Altena was surprised to see the proud kid getting along with Kane. Abel then asked if he could join the quests to compete with Kane. Kane refused, saying he wouldn't accept dangerous quests since he still had backlogged herb-gathering tasks. Abel then decided to help Kane with those quests and dragged him outside. Altena tried to stop them but couldn't. Anna didn't expect Abel to get involved, but Kane ended up accepting the quests anyway. Maya apologized to Altena for not stopping Anna from pressuring her. Altena asked her to keep a better hold on the princess, and Maya reluctantly agreed. Anna told them to stop whispering and catch up to Kane. She then suggested they split up. Safiria asked Anna where she was going. Anna said she had a small errand to run and left quickly. Maya had a bad feeling about it. Meanwhile, Kane was surprised to see that the shrine he had made now had a shed and a flower bed. Kisara was amazed to find a shrine in the mountains. Kane thought the villagers built it to thank him. He smiled at the goddess's statue and prayed for another safe adventure. Kisara silently copied him and prayed too. They went out and Abel suggested they start moving. He said they would compete to see who could slay the most lord-type monsters on the way to the log cabin. Abel and his team would take a steeper route and he rallied their spirits before leaving. Kane watched them go, amazed that he couldn't even get a word in. On the other hand, Maya complained when she saw more lord-type monsters. Anna said she had rounded them all up and placed them in the herb-gathering area. Maya said this wasn't nurturing and that Anna didn't consider Kane's true strength. Anna argued that it was nurturing because it would be a great experience for Kane. Safiria pointed out that reducing the monster numbers was a good thing. Maya couldn't help but agree. Anna asked if Maya was convinced, but Maya denied it. Suddenly, a voice called out to Safiria, and she left on her own. Anna and Maya quickly hid, feeling that Kane was coming. Kane appeared, noticing the monster corpses along the way. Just then, an orc lord jumped at him, but it suddenly collapsed. Kane wondered if it was dead, but it rose again. He quickly slashed it, panicking. Anna and Maya watched as Kane finished off the remaining half-dead monsters. Anna could see Kane's skills improving, but Maya thought it was more about his rising courage. Standing in a battlefield took guts, and Kane was getting braver in fighting these monsters. All that was left was for him to polish his sword skills, though she doubted that would happen. She wondered what the foolish genius girl beside her was thinking. Still, she could see Kane was also a genius in his own way. Kane managed to push through and arrived at the log cabin first. He complained that he barely gathered any herbs because of the monsters. Just then, Abel appeared holding 3 spoils from the Lord-type monsters. Kisara and Cruz mentioned that they hadn't encountered any monsters on their route. Anna, who was secretly watching them, claimed that she had taken care of all the monsters on Abel's route. When Kisara was scanning the area, an Ogre King suddenly appeared and started chasing her. The young group was shocked, and Kane told them to step back while he distracted the monster. He threw his mithril sword and by some chance it hit the monster's neck and killed it. The group watched as the Ogre King fell to the ground. Kane wondered if the wind had somehow moved the sword. Abel asked if Kisara was alright, but she reassured him that an A-ranked like her wouldn't be bothered by something like that. Kane was relieved that she was unhurt. Abel then commented on Kane's control of his sword, saying he didn't even give the Ogre King a chance. Kane mentioned that the monster was likely one of those from before. Abel noticed that the monster had cuts on its vital points and asked what Kane meant. Kisara interrupted them, reporting that a group of Lord Monsters was headed toward Kane's direction. Cruz and Abel couldn't believe Kane had such power. Abel encouraged the group to grow stronger and catch up with Kane. Kane realized that making excuses wouldn't work anymore and gave up on explaining that it wasn't his doing. Meanwhile, Maya complained to Anna, pointing out that an ogre king wasn't meant for training. However, she realized seeing a king-class monster in the mountains wasn't as unusual anymore. She suggested having a meeting among the three of them, but they then realized Safiria was missing. Kane and the young group returned to the foot of the mountain. Kane asked the kids to go ahead while he went to the shrine first. He heard a voice from the shrine and found Safiria kneeling in front of the goddess's idol. She turned to Kane and said it was time for destiny. Her words confused him. Back in town, Safiria dragged Kane with her without saying a word. Kane asked why she wasn't with Anna and Maya. She still didn't speak, and they arrived at the church. She opened the door and called out to Sylvia, who was cleaning. Safiria asked to borrow the innermost room of the church to perform a ritual. Sylvia refused and blocked Abel and the others from entering. Abel offered to submit the reports instead, and Kane thanked him. Safiria and Kane entered a room that Kane had never been allowed to enter as a child. However, he and Altina had explored the church and gone inside. Safiria then said that she was alive thanks to Kane. She reminded him how he helped Anna by giving her the fruit of revival. Kane realized that Safiria was the friend he had to save and said she should thank Anna instead for her efforts in searching the mountains. Safiria disagreed, saying that Kane also had his own struggles but still treated people kindly. She claimed his pure heart had saved the church and the village from many difficulties. Kane said it was nothing special. Safiria then started undressing, and Kane instinctively turned away. She said Kane was her destined person and asked him to accept her only pledge, which could only be given once in her lifetime. Safiria asked Kane to remove his clothes, but he asked her to calm down. He wanted to know the purpose of the pledge and why she was undressing. Safiria explained that it was a ritual to bestow her blessing and that they needed to synchronize their heartbeats. Kane understood that she would put her clothes back on after the ritual, and Safiria confirmed that. Kane took off his clothes, and Safiria hugged him from behind, pressing her chest to his back to feel his heartbeat. She asked him to focus on his heartbeat. Kane tried, but she mentioned that his pulse was too fast. She asked him to calm down so she could enter his mind. As Kane calmed down, he heard the same voice he had heard in the mountains. 20 years ago, a younger Kane held the dying Altina in his arms. She had covered for him to save him. Kane tried to treat her, but it was useless. Altina told him not to blame himself as she had no regrets. She promised to always watch over him, and those were her last words. Altina was like an older sister to Kane and had influenced his decision to become an adventurer. He searched tirelessly for ways to revive her, but as a rookie adventurer, he wasn't able to bring her back. Altina was buried, and soon after, Kane discovered a letter addressed to him. The letter was Altina's will, urging him to become an adventurer who would help others in need. The letter became a guide for Kane, helping him find his path after Altina's death. To make others smile, Kane worked hard without caring about his rank or the nickname Weed Picker given to him. Altina had kept watch over Kane as promised. She knew he wandered through the Wolfberry Mountains to stay close to her. She once wished to spend her life with him, and that wish was granted by the king of gods, Audia. Kane then built a shrine for a small idol of a forgotten goddess. His prayers and kindness gave Altina strength, and she became the goddess of kindness. Altina was finally able to meet Kane again after many years, and gave him a warm hug. Kane asked if she was really Altina, crying as he had thought he'd never see her again. Altina cried too, saying it was also a dream come true for her. She called him a crybaby. Kane apologized for not being able to protect her back then, even though she was so important to him. Altina told him not to blame himself for her fate. She thanked Kane for protecting him all these years, especially with the evil dragon and the C-ranked adventurers. Altina said it was thanks to Kane's constant prayers that she could help him. She gave him a hug she had been unable to give for the past 20 years. But soon she realized their time was up and commented that the rowdy children had found Kane. She hoped they would meet again soon. Kane then woke up in reality to find Safiria still clinging to him, half naked. She expressed how happy she was. Maya and Anna were shocked by what they saw. Safiria said the ritual was finished. Maya couldn't believe the pledge had been given to Kane and reminded Safiria about their promise. Safiria claimed she had never agreed to the promise and that everything would be fine since Kane could stop the evil god. Maya gave up and asked Safiria for details about what had just happened. Just then, a messenger came looking for Sylvia. The messenger reported that an emergency council meeting was about to begin, as a messenger from Fort Sida had arrived. The report stated that a horde of about 5,000 monsters was heading toward the town. In Fort Sida, the captain, Orhan, told his men to stay calm and follow their training. As the stampede grew worse, he started to believe the rumors about the evil god returning might be true. A soldier reported that the fastest horses were ready. Orhan ordered his men to evacuate the citizens to Earn and request reinforcements from the guild since the monsters seemed to be heading there. Despite having more soldiers than usual, Orhan worried they weren't ready for something this big. A lieutenant named Helm asked if Orhan was scared. Orhan replied that he was just thinking and joked they might get a promotion if they survived. Instead of waiting for reinforcements, he wanted to focus on defense. Helm understood and told Orhan not to die. He walked away saying he didn't care about promotions, then ordered some men to bring more ammo for the ballista. Orhan smiled and told everyone to prepare. Meanwhile, in Urn, the leaders held a meeting. Ronald, a counselor, asked Walter if he was sure about a mass evacuation. Walter said it was the only option because Fort Sida would likely fall before reinforcements could arrive from the capital. The council argued about the evacuation, while Kane and the others stayed quiet. Even Altina, who only Kane and Safiria could see, was present. Maya grew frustrated as it seemed nobody understood the situation. Anna sighed and decided to stop the arguments. Maya spoke up, suggesting everyone evacuate to the northern border. She explained it would be easier for those without carriages if guards and D-ranked adventurers escorted them. She added that she was familiar with the area because her hometown was nearby. Then she revealed that the stampede was connected to the evil god's revival in the Side Mountains. Everyone was shocked, while Kane and Altina exchanged nods. Maya promised that her group would do their best to help, but asked for reinforcements from the capital and higher-ranked adventurers to handle the larger monster groups. She said the princess would defeat the evil god while the saint resealed it. A counselor named Georg remarked on how simple the plan sounded. Maya asked him to take command of the units. Walter tried to object but hesitated. Anna, as the princess, told him to speak up if he had concerns, but he stayed quiet. She then announced that Kane would join them, surprising everyone. They questioned why Kane was even in the meeting. Maya sighed and explained that Anna had given him permission and the reasons were highly classified. She asked Anna not to say anything further to avoid complications. Maya then shifted the focus back to the evil god, saying her group would handle it. As the meeting ended, Ronald gave Kane a worried look. Walking down the hallway, Kane commented on how well Maya had led the meeting. Altina teased him, acting jealous. Kane changed the subject to the evil god and wondered why he was involved in the committee. Altina told him he was the only one who could handle the situation. Her intense gaze made her feelings clear, and Kane promised to do whatever he could to help. Ronald called out to Kane, commenting on how the candy-begging boy with Altina had grown up. Kane thanked him for supporting the church, but Ronald said there was no need for thanks. It was the least he could do. Kane shared how everyone at the church, including himself, was grateful for Ronald's help. Ronald was glad to hear that and said the town was all he had left. He appreciated Maya's evacuation plan, but if there was an extra spot, he would rather give it to someone with a brighter future. He explained that he had lived his life in the town and didn't plan to leave, no matter the risks. He compared himself to old roots that couldn't be easily pulled up. He said he had nothing to regret and had already decided to stay and die in the town where he spent his life. Ronald's words deeply moved Kane. He asked Altina if what she had said earlier was true, if he really had the power to protect everyone in Urn. Altina confirmed it, explaining that his gentle wish had brought her back. Kane's expression grew determined. Altina wondered if she would have survived back then if Kane had this power earlier. She touched Ronald, leaving him confused, and then touched Kane. Kane noticed a glowing power in his hands. He promised Ronald that he would protect Urn. Ronald was surprised as a glowing light surrounded Kane. Abel encouraged Kane, saying he had spoken well and reminded him that the adventurers were also there to help protect the town. At that moment, someone interrupted, saying they shouldn't leave her out of important discussions. Anna stepped forward with Maya and Safiria. With a serious look, Anna asked Kane if he truly wanted to protect the town and defeat the evil god. Kane confirmed this, and Anna tried to say something, but Maya stopped her. Maya warned against getting too riled up, fearing it might ruin their plan. She suggested they stick to the strategy. Anna reminded Maya that this time was different from what they had faced before. They had Kane now, who had received the saint's pledge. She called Kane the hero of Urn and thanked him for saving her friend's life. As repayment, she offered to be his vanguard and swore, as the heiress of the Armillion dukedom, to clear a path for him. Safiria also knelt and vowed to entrust her life to Kane, calling him virtuous. Altina signaled for Kane to respond, and he thanked the girls. The sight of two noble women kneeling before Kane left everyone watching in shock. Abel broke the silence, calling Kane impressive and promising to do his best too. Anna could see that Abel had a kind heart. With everyone motivated, Georg felt confident they could succeed. He thanked Elena for her preparations. Elena was surprised to see even Georg excited to fight the monsters. She said goodbye to him and turned her attention to Kane. Kane promised to return alive, and Elena wished him safety. As the vanguard, Anna armed herself and vowed to defeat the evil god alongside Kane to protect their beloved town of Urn. As Kane got ready, Altina urged him to hurry so they could head to Fort Sida. Kane pointed out they were already running late. Altina reassured him that someone would assist them. Suddenly, a giant pair of wings appeared in front of them. At Fort Sida, Orhan and his men struggled to hold the front lines. Herm showed up and angrily asked why Orhan wasn't following his orders to stay safe. He noticed Orhan had lost an arm and reminded him he was supposed to be in the relief squad. Orhan refused, saying his rank didn't require him to follow Herm's orders. While they argued, a winged monster appeared in the sky above them. At that moment, a holy spell was cast, healing everyone on the battlefield. Divine flames burned the monster, and Orhan's missing arm grew back. Safiria apologized for arriving late. Meanwhile, Maya skipped introductions and began chanting a powerful spell. Meteors rained down from the sky, striking the monsters. Maya thanked the soldiers for holding out for so long. Anna soon joined the fight, cutting through the monsters with ease. The soldiers watched in awe as the Sword Princess destroyed her enemies. She praised their efforts, saying they were almost done, then left to finish the job. As Orhan and Helm worried about her last remark, a monster crept up behind them. Abel quickly killed it, reminding them the battle wasn't over yet. Cruz mentioned their task was to deal with any stragglers, but Kisara was busy collecting S-ranked drops. Abel urged her to stay focused on the mission, and the three of them jumped into action. Georg arrived to report to Orhan, but the ground suddenly shook like an earthquake. Georg yelled for everyone to get down. A loud roar echoed in the distance, and a slash tore through everything in its path, destroying monsters and land alike and injuring adventurers. Protected by Cruz's barrier, Abel commented on how twisted the attacker must be to strike both monsters and soldiers alike. Then, crying loudly, the evil god finally appeared. Maya declared that the real battle had begun and told Anna to prepare herself. She chanted a magic spell, summoning chains to trap the evil god. Anna charged at the evil god and struck with a heavy vertical slash, but the attack was deflected. The evil god began to tremble, and Maya warned that something was coming. Suddenly, the earlier slashes reappeared, emerging from the evil god. Safiria shouted Anna's name as she was struck by the attack. Maya used her magic to soften Anna's fall. Anna lay on the ground, gravely injured. Maya told Safiria to tend to Anna while she held off the evil god. Safiria quickly healed Anna, bringing her back to her feet. Anna asked if Safiria could keep up with the healing. She realized she needed to attack fast enough to overcome the evil god's defenses. Reminding herself of her status as an S-ranked warrior, she unleashed one of her strongest sword techniques. Abel, watching from a distance, was impressed by Anna's strength. However, even after being hit, the evil god retaliated by summoning black spheres that rained down across the battlefield. Maya, injured, realized she could do little against the evil god. Compared to their last encounter, the evil god had grown much stronger. Randall saw the evil god heading toward the fort and wondered what had happened to the others. Safiria, wounded, crawled toward Anna, who was now unconscious. The adventurers nearby were shocked that even an S-ranked party couldn't defeat the evil god. Suddenly, someone spotted something flying toward them. Everyone looked up and saw Kane riding a winged horse. Altina asked if he was all right, and Kane admitted he had never ridden a horse before. Altina reassured him he was doing fine. The group cheered at Kane's arrival, and Abel placed his hopes on him. Hearing the commotion, Anna woke up. Seeing Kane running toward her gave her the strength to stand again. She reminded herself of her duty as Kane's vanguard. With renewed determination, she called out to Maya and Safiria, asking if they could still fight. They confirmed they were ready. Altina then told Kane to draw his sword, which began to glow like a divine weapon. Kane was confused, but Altina explained that her power now resided in the sword. She urged him to use it to defeat the evil god once the others created an opening. Despite agreeing to the plan, Kane hesitated as he stared at the evil god. Maya began chanting a meteor magic spell, while Safiria prepared holy magic. Anna moved behind the evil god and struck at the same time the spells landed. As the evil god's defenses faltered, the girls shouted for Kane to attack. Kane moved forward but hesitated when he noticed something beneath the evil god. Instead of attacking, he dropped his sword and ran toward the figure. To everyone's shock, he hugged what appeared to be a child. The evil god let out strange sounds as Kane tried to calm it. Altina demanded to know what he was doing, but Kane explained that the evil god was actually a frightened child. Safiria and Maya were stunned by this revelation. Anna warned Kane about the miasma surrounding the child, but Kane refused to let go. He reassured the child, telling her no one would harm her and that everything would be all right. A bright light suddenly covered the area and the child stopped crying out in pain. There was once a nameless god who answered prayers from mortals, whether they were good or bad. She helped everyone, no matter their intentions. However, her appearance became twisted and frightening over time. People she met began talking about defeating and sealing her. The despair and darkness from the prayers she granted were reflected in her form. She recalled a recent encounter with heroes during which she almost killed someone. These memories filled her with loneliness and pain. These events were shared with Altina, who realized she had something in common with the nameless god. Maya and Safiria also learned about the god's past, discovering she granted monsters wishes and emotions, which created curses. Kane comforted the nameless god, telling her she wasn't an evil god but a kind soul. His words made her cry, and a bright pillar of light rose in the battlefield. Maya was stunned that the god was purified so easily, and Safiria remarked how her fate had changed. Anna couldn't believe Kane's kindness had saved a god through the pledge they made. Meanwhile, the other adventurers noticed the monsters had disappeared. Georg guessed that something significant had happened where the light was coming from. Kane saw the nameless god had finally calmed down. She thanked him and he gently patted her head. Suddenly, the nameless god grew worried as she noticed Altina beginning to fade. Altina apologized for not telling Kane earlier, saying it would have made him hesitate. She explained that using up her power would turn her back into a normal spirit and they would never see each other again. Despite this, she was grateful for the time they had spent together. With a gentle kiss and a final goodbye, Altina disappeared completely. The battle against the evil god had ended. Later at the guild, Elena was asleep at the counter waiting for everyone. The sound of the door opening woke her and she was relieved to see Kane. She ran to him, crying and welcoming him back. However, their moment was interrupted when the other adventurers entered, all exhausted and talking about celebrating later. Elena and Kane were caught off guard but smiled at each other. Georg made a teasing comment about Elena looking tired, ruining her mood. Meanwhile, Kane noticed Altina sitting in a corner. She nervously explained that she had enough power to return. Kane was surprised but welcomed her back with a warm smile. Afterward, an award ceremony took place in the royal castle to honor those who showed bravery in the recent battle. Orhan was called forward and personally thanked by the king. Meanwhile, Anna was furious and grabbed Count Mondo by the collar, demanding to know why Kane didn't receive any recognition even though he defeated the evil god. She insisted that Kane be made a viscount, but Count Mondo claimed he couldn't make that decision. The servants nearby didn't dare interfere with the spoiled princess as she bullied the count. Just then, Anna's uncle, the king, appeared and asked her to calm down. Anna cried out that Kane's efforts had been ignored. Maya, standing nearby, couldn't believe that Anna also forgot the adventurers, who were similarly unrewarded. The king explained that while everyone had been busy, he couldn't overlook Kane's bravery after reading the reports. He then revealed the Scarlet Emblem, the most prestigious award in the kingdom. Count Mondo's eyes widened in shock as he didn't agree with giving such an honor to a commoner. Anna, however, kept pressuring him with her usual forceful attitude. The king reminded Mondo that the same award had once been given to Maya's foster father, the Grand Sage Dainarine. Maya remembered that it was given to force her foster father into becoming a noble. The king then asked Anna to deliver the award to Kane. Anna eagerly saw this as a chance to meet Kane again, but the king clarified that wasn't what he meant. Seeing Anna's disappointment, he decided to assign someone else to the task. Anna quickly volunteered, claiming she would gladly do it as her uncle's representative. Maya couldn't help but notice how cleverly the king managed to handle the spoiled princess. The king assured everyone that Anna would quiet down now and advised her to act more ladylike if she didn't want to be mocked. He reminded her of their royal duty to bring peace and stability to the kingdom, and asked her to tone down her wild behavior before leaving. Anna started complaining again, but Maya reminded her that she would be meeting Kane soon. Anna, however, was still fixated on making Kane a viscount. That's when Maya suddenly realized something. Anna wanted Kane to have the title because it would allow him to marry someone of royal status like a princess. Anna blushed and stammered, denying the idea before storming off. Maya watched her go, realizing her jealousy had faded, replaced by a warm feeling as she observed Anna's growing affection for Kane. Back in Urn, Kane looked at something and told Ronald he couldn't accept it. Ronald had expected Kane to refuse the reward money from the country, but he had heard Kane was staying at an inn. He hoped Kane would accept his gratitude this time. Ronald offered Kane a house. York and the other carpenters arrived and urged Kane to accept what they had built. One of them joked that they made it big enough in case Kane got married and had kids someday. This comment made Kane think about a wife. He remembered Altina, who had disappeared again because her powers had weakened. She had promised she wouldn't be gone forever. Kane realized Altina was the only one he could think of as a wife, but he concluded he would live alone in the house for now. A child then called Kane to hurry up and see what was inside. Sylvie and some other kids came with food for a housewarming party. Elena also brought lilies grown by the guild. Kane thanked everyone and realized he had a warm and caring family around him. From a distance, Altina smiled as she watched. While Kane was saying goodbye to everyone, Sylvie and Kid prepared lunch. Kid suggested they eat outside since there was a table, but they didn't have enough chairs. Someone suggested borrowing chairs from the orphanage, so Kid asked the other kids outside to help. Some kids refused at first, but Kid threatened they wouldn't get any food. They reluctantly agreed to help. Kid then asked Kane to look after the younger kids. Kane offered to help, but Kid said it was fine. Kane complimented Kid for being dependable, which made the teen feel a little shy. While Kane was holding a baby named Ruri, she pulled on Kid's necklace, breaking the ice between them. Kane casually noted that Kid was already old enough to wear accessories. Kid said he'd had it for a long time, and Kane remarked that it suited him. Just then, a black-haired boy called Kid to go and fetch the chairs, so Kid left. At that moment, a black-haired girl appeared from the corner of the house. It was the nameless god Kane had saved. He walked toward her and asked for her name, but she seemed confused. Kane suggested they play a guessing game to pick a name for her. He mentioned her black eyes, hair, and dress and guessed the name Noir. She seemed to like the idea and decided her name would be Noir. Kane then asked where Noir's home was, but she didn't answer and only stared at him. Kane realized something was off. Noir reminded him of how he had saved her. Kane offered to help her find her family later, thinking she might be lost. However, Noir questioned if she truly had a family. This left Kane wondering what was really going on. Suddenly, Anna's scream echoed through the area when she assumed Kane already had children of his own. Maya apologized for their sudden visit while Safiria silently watched Noir. Kane was surprised to see them, and Maya explained they had heard some things from Altena. Kane then clarified that the children were his younger siblings from the orphanage. Maya reassured Anna, and Anna, while stumbling over her words, greeted Kane. She explained she had come to deliver something from her uncle and showed him the scarlet emblem. Kane was confused about why it was from Anna's uncle. Maya then revealed that the country's king, Dietrich, was Anna's uncle, and the king wanted to thank Kane for defeating the evil god. Kane understood but suddenly realized something. He remembered how Anna acted and how others treated her as someone important in society. Kane quickly dropped to his knees and apologized for being rude to her before. Anna asked him to stop being formal and speak to her as he always had. She said she preferred being called by her name. Kane didn't hesitate and said her name casually, which made Anna very happy. In her excitement, she suddenly punched Maya for no reason. At that moment, the kids from the orphanage returned, bringing chairs and supplies. Maya noticed they were preparing for a housewarming. She used her magic to create a huge bath with a source of hot water. Everyone was amazed, and Anna mentioned that Maya was known as the Lifestyle Witch. Maya angrily corrected her, saying it was the Almighty Witch. Safiria felt jealous, and Maya explained the bath had an endless supply of hot water. Everyone went to enjoy the bath. Kane was washing one of the kids when he suddenly heard screaming from outside. Safiria entered the bath and offered to wash Kane's back. The boys were surprised, but Kane quickly turned around and apologized. Maya and Anna grabbed Safiria and apologized for the trouble. Crying, Safiria said she wanted to give Kane a gift, but Maya called her a troublemaker instead. Hearing the commotion, Sylvia commented on how lively the house was. After the bath, Kane drank a mug of beer and felt guilty, like he was doing something wrong. Maya told him to relax since he had been working hard recently. Kane said Maya was good at pouring beer, but she replied that she had never done it for her dad. When Kane said her dad would be happy, Maya said it wouldn't happen because her dad didn't expect that from her. She then looked at the kids and said they would pour and drink beer themselves someday. Kane felt emotional after hearing that. As Kane watched the kids, he realized Noir had been missing the whole time. The kids invited Maya and Kane to play hide and seek, and Kane wondered if Noir had gone home. Later in the kitchen, Kid found out from Kane that the red-haired girl was Princess Anastrea. Kid felt worried because he had been rude earlier, but Kane told him not to worry about it. Just then, someone knocked on the door. Kid went to see who it was. He told Kane to stay back when a beast woman appeared at the door. She looked angry when she saw humans in the house. She tried to attack them, aiming to kill, but before she could strike, the beast woman collapsed. Kid said he would get help and explained that the woman was a Wartiger beastkin. Meanwhile, in the Sita Mountains, the girls were looking for leftover dark energy to clean up. Maya had a headache and wanted to find the evil god's idol quickly. Anna complained about how all the monsters they encountered were weak and wouldn't be worthy of Kane's recognition. While Safiria searched for the idol, Maya scolded Anna for swinging her sword around aimlessly and treating hunting as a new hobby. Anna walked off and punched a wall. That's when she found a beast woman sitting nearby. Without hesitation, Anna pointed her sword at her. She commented that the beast woman was a war tiger and asked if she was stronger than an ogre tiger. Anna said anything weaker than an ogre king was useless to her and demanded an answer. The Wartiger introduced herself as Tetra, the blood-soaked claws, one of the 8 generals serving Dustard, the demon king. She claimed that no human could ever defeat her. Despite Tetra's intimidating presence, Anna only remarked that her name was too long. With one swing of her sword, Anna struck Tetra multiple times. Tetra, confused, tried to counter with her fastest move, a skill called Tearing Claws. Anna realized Tetra was stronger than an ogre king. Maya soon arrived and saw Anna pinning Tetra against the wall with her sword. Maya noted that Tetra was a general of a demon king, which shocked her. Safiria confirmed she could sense dark energy from Tetra. Maya asked where the evil god's idol was. Tetra realized that's what they were after and laughed, saying they were too late because the demon king Dustard already had it. She said the evil god would be reborn and grant a wish. Before she could say more about the world of demons, Tetra passed out. Despite that, Maya considered it progress and wondered if the Demon King was the real mastermind. She thought about how quickly the evil god had been revived, and questioned if the monster stampede was part of the plan. She also wondered where the masterminds might be. Then she remembered that Tetra was one of the rear guards and figured the others might not have left long ago. Anna asked if Maya was finished and moved her sword away from Tetra. Maya commented that they wouldn't get any useful information from Tetra and noticed a troublesome crest on her. Since Tetra was no longer useful, Anna decided to let Kane defeat her so he could gain the status of Viscount. Maya could see that Anna still hadn't given up on marrying Kane. In the present, the girls used stealth magic to spy again. Anna hoped Kane would finish off the new target she had brought to him. However, Kane focused on treating Tetra's wounds instead. Kid warned Kane that Tetra was a beastkin who had been influenced by evil. Tetra told Kane not to touch her and confirmed that she served the Demon King, just as Kid had said. Even so, Kane didn't care about any of that. Seeing an injured girl, he didn't want her to die. He opened a wine bottle to disinfect her wounds, but this reminded Tetra of bad experiences with humans. She smacked the bottle away and scratched Kane's face in the process. She told him not to touch her. Kane apologized. Meanwhile, Maya held Anna back. Kid offered to help Tetra if she didn't like humans. He admitted he was afraid of her. He explained that Kane was someone who helped others regardless of whether they were human or beastkin. Tetra then asked if they would still help her if they knew she had killed many humans under the Demon King's orders. Kane told her that didn't matter at the moment, but asked her to promise to stop working for the Demon King and to stop killing humans. Tetra was shocked by what she heard. She stood up and said that open hostility was kinder than this. She claimed that Kane's cruelty and cunning were just like those of demons. However, she agreed to make the promise. Kid noticed some strange tattoos on her and tried to stop her, but it was too late. Tetra made the promise not to harm humans again. As soon as she made the promise, the tattoos on her body began to tear her skin apart, and blood gushed out. Kane watched in confusion and horror as Tetra screamed in pain, her body covered in blood. Kid explained that her tattoos were a servant's crest. According to a book he had read, it was a mark placed by the Demon King on his servants, and breaking the contract would cause unbearable pain that could lead to death. Kane asked Tetra why she would do such a thing. Tetra reminded him it was his request. Kane told her not to take it so seriously and asked if there was a way to stop her pain. He insisted he hadn't meant for her to act so quickly. Tetra called him sly and said she wanted to kill him, but her body no longer obeyed her. As Tetra closed her eyes, Kane began to cry. He begged her to open her eyes and breathe. The scene reminded him of Altina, who had died in his arms 20 years ago. He couldn't believe he was once again powerless to help someone who was dying. He prayed to Altina and asked for her strength. Suddenly, a bright light appeared from the flower bed. Kane discovered a magical item called Drops of Life, which had the power to heal and revive. Kid was shocked, but Kane quickly gathered the item and thanked Altina. He vowed that this time he wouldn't let anyone die. In a flashback, a 5-year-old Tetra asked why she was the only one not allowed outside. Her mother promised to explain it to her when she got older. As long as Tetra could remember, she wasn't allowed to leave her house. Eventually, she became tired of the warnings and decided to go outside for the first time. She was amazed by the night sky but soon realized she didn't know how to get back home. Just then, some humans found her and talked about rewards for capturing beastkin. Tetra didn't understand what they were saying, but she felt their words were cruel. A man swung a sword at her, but her mother was there to protect her. Tetra's mother was relieved, and her father appeared too. They told Tetra to run, but instead of escaping, the blood on her paws suddenly turned sharp. She confronted the humans and roared angrily. That night, when Tetra broke her promise, she lost her parents and everything she knew. Soon after, the Demon King took her in and taught her many things. Under the Demon King's rule, she killed the humans she hated and became one of his generals. Tetra woke up, relieved to find she was still alive. She wondered if Kane was planning something against her, assuming that the servant of a human king would want to humiliate or torture her. Kane said he didn't want to see her die and reminded her of their promise. He told her not to kill humans anymore and to take better care of herself. Tetra called him shameless, saying it was more than they had ever talked about. She mentioned still having the crest from the Demon King, but when she checked, it was gone. Cytherea appeared and explained that the goddess of kindness, Altina, and the virtuous Kane had purified Tetra's body. She said Tetra was free now, but she needed to repent for her sins. Tetra thought execution was the only option. Cytherea said there was one other way, to become Kane's servant. She explained that Tetra could enter a contract where she would serve Kane, but Kane refused to take a servant. Just then, Tetra noticed that Kane was injured. He said the treatment had been rough, but he didn't mind. Tetra thought Kane was strange for not caring about her as a beastkin. In the end, Tetra agreed to become Kane's servant, realizing that she couldn't keep her promise to take care of herself if she wasn't alive. She also noticed that Kane treated everyone equally, which made her feel okay about it. Cytherea offered to engrave the holy mark on Tetra's body and asked for Kane's hand. Safiria knelt and prayed, placing her hand on Tetra's abdomen. A slave crest appeared on her, and Safiria asked Tetra to devote herself fully to Kane. Tetra didn't want to take orders from Safiria, so she knelt before Kane and announced that he would be her master from now on. She promised to keep her word to him as long as she lived. Kane thought she was cool and greeted her. However, he was concerned when he saw a new mark on her body over the old one. Safiria said that without it, Tetra would be executed on the spot. Tetra didn't fully trust humans, but she felt it was okay to trust her foolish master this time. Sylvia appeared and commented on how their cats were increasing. Tetra proudly said she was a tiger. Meanwhile, Maya was calming down Anna, who felt guilty for making Kane cry and thought she had become the villainess. The next morning, Kane woke up slowly, noticing a pleasant smell in the air. However, he also felt something heavy on top of him. When he opened his eyes, he saw Tetra's large body right in front of him. He screamed, which startled the big cat awake. She asked if there was an enemy nearby, but Kane blamed her, reminding her that she had her own bed and shouldn't sleep on top of him. Tetra replied that sleeping in a bed without her master around was pointless. Kane sighed and asked how she was feeling. Tetra assured him she was fine and found it strange that her master was so concerned about a servant's well-being. She then asked if Kane understood that he was her master now. Kane replied that he didn't want her to follow him around or obey his every command. Instead, he wanted them to interact as equals. Tetra said she remembered him saying that. Later, Sylvia came to wake Kane and asked him what was wrong. She mentioned how cute Tetra was while teaching her how to cook. Tetra, embarrassed, told Sylvia, whom she called Mother, to stop teasing her. Kane soon saw the breakfast Tetra had prepared. Sylvia proudly explained that Tetra had chopped wood, cleaned the floor, and helped wash the dishes. Kane asked Tetra if she did all that while he was asleep. Tetra apologized for helping without his permission and said she would accept any punishment. Kane reassured her, saying she had helped both him and Sylvia a lot. He thanked her but reminded her to wake him next time so they could do the chores together. Tetra then wondered if Kane even needed a servant and touched her crest. After breakfast, Sylvia asked Kane if he was going out. Kane said he planned to gather herbs and maybe take on some goblin-related quests. He then asked if Tetra wanted to come with him and she quickly agreed. Sylvia told them to have fun. With Tetra's help, Kane collected more herbs than usual. He suggested she take a bath later, which surprised her because she didn't know they had one. Kane commented on her strength, which helped him safely collect herbs, and Tetra reminded him that she used to be a general for the Demon King. As they talked about what to have for dinner, Mia suddenly ran up to them, saying something bad had happened at the church and that Sylvia was in trouble. Anna was frustrated because she had no way to increase Kane's rank. She thought about using humanoid-type monsters, but Maya told her to calm down. Maya was looking through recent monster reports, but there were hardly any. Their only option was to ask Tetra directly about the Demon King's location. Although Tetra was now loyal to Kane, they knew she wouldn't cooperate. However, when Maya saw Tetra alone, she guessed Tetra had been cast aside. Maya didn't want Kane involved in this mess, but Anna was too difficult to deal with. She just wished for some clue about Dustard to show up. At that moment, Altena came over and whispered that she had news. She reported that Earl Randall had arrived and hired a group of high-ranking adventurers for a mission. The girls weren't surprised since Randall was a well-known general in the area. But then Altena shared that their mission was to find someone hiding in town and eliminate them. Randall believed the target was one of the Demon King's high-ranking generals. The girls exchanged looks, realizing who it was. Meanwhile, Sylvia was firmly denying that any general of the Demon King was hiding with them. She told Randall to leave the church. Randall seemed surprised that a nun would stand against the lord she was supposed to serve. Sylvia noticed Randall was acting strangely compared to the last time they met. Then a cunning-looking butler appeared and told Randall he would handle the situation. Randall, who seemed to be under some kind of influence, agreed. Kid, sensing something was off, gripped his necklace tightly. The butler introduced himself as Forrest and apologized for the intrusion. He claimed they had a reliable source confirming that one of the Demon King's generals was hiding in the church. Forrest asked Sylvia to allow them to search the church for everyone's safety. Sylvia felt something sinister about him and refused, saying the children were getting scared. Forrest, seeing her resistance, signaled the high-ranking adventurers to enter the church. With the intimidating group behind him, Forrest asked Sylvia again to hand over the Demon King's general and their accomplice. At that moment, Tetra asked if they were searching for her. Kane and Tetra arrived just in time before things got worse. The crowd stepped aside as Kane moved forward to protect Sylvia. Sylvia asked Kane if Tetra was really a general for the Demon King. Kane confirmed that she had been, but she stopped working for the Demon King after staying with him and another high-ranking member. Tetra noticed an unpleasant smell coming from Forrest. Forrest seemed pleased that Tetra showed herself and asked Randall what to do next. Randall ordered everyone to capture Tetra and execute Kane. Tetra was confused about why she was to be captured while Kane was to be killed. Sylvia tried to intervene, but Randall told his hired group to act. However, no one moved. Frustrated, Randall asked why they were standing still. The adventurers were shocked to learn that Kane was the target and quickly apologized. They returned the payment and canceled the contract. Abel led the complaints, refusing to harm Kane. He explained that Kane had recently stopped the evil god's attack and was seen as a hero in the town. Abel said there was no way Kane would ever work for the Demon King. Tetra was surprised to hear that her master had defeated the evil god. Cruz and Kisara also canceled their contracts and stood by Tetra, saying they believed in her and her reasons. Cruz then asked Forrest about his reliable source. The rest of the adventurers gave up on the job too, complaining that the feudal lord had wasted their time. Randall became angry and accused them of disobeying his orders. With the adventurers now supporting Kane, Abel told Randall that they followed their own morals, not money, and that he trusted Kane with his life. Kane thanked Abel for his support. Kane announced that Tetra had left the Demon King's forces and had accepted the Saintess's pardon. He said she was an important ally and that as her master, he would not forgive anyone who tried to harm her. Forrest became frustrated, turned to Randall, and demanded to know why he was distracted. He ordered Randall to punish anyone who disobeyed his commands and have them executed. Kane tried to stop him, but Tetra stepped in. She asked how Forrest knew about her and the Demon King's identity, since the area had not been touched by their forces. She said she didn't care for his answers but remembered someone using tricks like hypnotism. She claimed Forrest's cologne couldn't hide his foul stench, and revealed that he was one of the Demon King's 8 main generals, the illusory General Fornos. Everyone in the church was shocked by this revelation. Fornius complained that Tetra had ruined his plan to make humans fight each other. Tetra warned Kane not to look into Forrest's eyes. With no other choice, Fornius ordered Randall to hold a knife to his own neck. Using Randall as a hostage, he made 2 demands. First, the destruction of the virtuous Kane, and second, the presentation of Tetra's head to her true master. He threatened that if they refused, Randall would die, and hinted he might target the children next. Tetra admitted she didn't care about the other humans, but Fornius warned her this was her last chance to accept the honor of bearing the Demon King's crest. Tetra then asked Kane to trust her and promised to follow his orders. Kane replied that he had trusted her from the day they met, and asked her to lend her strength to fight by his side. Tetra was surprised by the warm sense of belonging she felt. In that moment, Tetra acted. She grabbed Randall and bit the knife at the same time. She declared to Fornius that the virtuous Kane was now her master and no one else. Kane commanded Tetra to make sure no one got hurt. Fornius called them fools and swore to kill them all. Tetra then asked Kane to leave Fornius to her, promising to defeat him. Meanwhile, Maya entered the Adventurers Guild carrying Kane's bag. Maya noticed her and greeted Maya. Safiria saw Kane's bag and Anna asked where Kane was. Maya explained that some scary people had come to the church and that she asked Kane for help. She said Kane told her to deliver the bag to Elena. Elena took the bag and Maya asked about the scary people. Maya described one man with glasses and another with a mustache. Maya and Elena exchanged knowing looks. However, Maya felt frustrated once again. Anna, angry, vowed to protect Kane and not let anyone harm him. At the church, a fierce fight broke out between Tetra and Fornius. Tetra was surprisingly stronger and forced Fornius outside to continue the battle. Fornius realized Tetra had become a real problem. He hadn't expected a human to take her in. Like Sylvia, Tetra had strong magical power that kept her from being controlled. Fornius asked her to return to the Demon King's side, but Tetra firmly refused. He reminded her of the terrible things humans had done to her. Tetra admitted she still hated humans but said Fornius couldn't understand what made Kane different. She laughed and told him someone like him who manipulates others could never understand. Fornius agreed that he couldn't and grew angry. He transformed, gaining webbed hands, sharp teeth like a shark, and a tail. He couldn't believe Tetra had betrayed the one she owed the most to serve humans. He called her foolish and swore to destroy her in the Demon King's name. Suddenly, Tetra started feeling dizzy and fell to the ground. She realized Fornos's scent was overwhelming her, leaving her defenseless. At that moment, Kane appeared. He told her to stop fighting, saying he was the one at fault. He admitted he couldn't believe she still hated humans and saw her as a monster deep down. Wanting to protect his family, he asked her to leave. Tetra was shocked and didn't understand. Then Kane raised his sword and said she should just die. Thankfully, Tetra managed to dodge despite her weakened state. It turned out the Kane in front of her was Fornos in disguise. His attack missed and Tetra cursed him under her breath. Meanwhile, Abel knocked out some of the adventurers who attacked him. He reminded them, frustrated, that they had ignored Randall's orders earlier. Another adventurer tried to attack Abel, but Cruz helped by using his magic. Cruz explained that some of the adventurers were under a delayed form of hypnosis. Kisara was also fighting the others and Abel joined her. She complained that no matter how much they hit them, the adventurers didn't return to normal. Abel found it frustrating and asked Cruz to use magic to tie everyone up. He also told the others who weren't hypnotized not to kill anyone but to restrain them instead. On the other side, Kane was fighting Randall and shouted at him to wake up. All Kane could do was defend himself from the feudal lord's strong attacks. Using Randall's body, Fornos spoke to Kane. He said his ability wasn't just about controlling people, it also made them stronger and unlocked their full potential. Fornos mocked Kane, wondering if he had the strength to defeat his perfect combat puppet. He warned Kane to be careful, reminding him that Randall was an important figure. Fornos claimed Kane had no chance of surviving the fight and made Randall attack with a powerful horizontal slash. Kane managed to block the strikes at first, but eventually a heavy blow left him defenseless. Kid suddenly jumped forward to protect Kane. Kane was surprised, but for some reason Randall paused for a moment. Kane grabbed Kid and pulled him down to the ground. Randall continued his attack, stabbing at them, but Kane quickly rolled to dodge, bringing Kid with him. Kane apologized and kicked Randall away. After catching his breath, Kane scolded Kid for acting recklessly. Kid then admitted he didn't want to see his father hurt someone he now saw as family. Kane realized that Kid's father was the feudal lord. Kane told Kid to calm down and reminded him that his father was being controlled by Forneus, who was fighting Tetra. He said he didn't want families hurting each other either. At that moment, Randall started calling out to Kid. Kane wondered if the hypnotism was weakening. He tried to subdue Randall and broke his sword in half. He quickly grabbed Randall's arms and asked Kid to call out to his father since the hypnotism was weakening. He said only Kid's voice could reach Randall. Randall stammered but finally said Kid's name. Kid called out to his father while hiding behind Kane. He said his voice might have become deeper, but he was still Kid. Kid kept calling to him and Randall confirmed he could hear him. He remembered Kid when he was a child. Kid then asked Randall to open his eyes. He said he had always wanted to meet him and talk to him. He told him he had studied hard and now was a big brother to everyone. He also had a reliable older brother. He assured Randall that everything was fine now. Kid's necklace appeared, and Randall paused as memories of the past rushed into his mind. Randall collapsed to the ground, kneeling. Kane asked if he was alright. Randall then asked why he was in the church. Kane was happy for Kid, and Randall became interested. Kane told the feudal lord that Kid was the one who had freed him from the hypnotism. Kid then nervously asked if Randall could recognize him or remember anything. Randall said he could, recalling how Marita had left him with Kid. He had felt powerless at the time but had always wanted to see Kid again. He was glad to see Kid grown up and gave him a fatherly hug. Kane and Sylvia felt touched by their reunion. Meanwhile, Abel was forcefully defeating the other adventurers. Cruz complained about how violent he was, but Abel said they had no choice. Cruz then used bind magic on the group and Kisara quickly immobilized the others who had been hypnotized. They finally managed to calm everyone down. Seeing Randall attacking made them think the fight was over, but Cruz reminded Abel that the demon outside still needed to be dealt with. Tetra was still battling Forneus, who had taken on Kane's appearance. She felt dizzy and wobbled, giving Forneus an opening to strike with a vertical slash. Despite this, Tetra managed to block the attack with a kick. Using Kane's voice and face, Forneus told Tetra to stop resisting. Angered, Tetra used her tearing claws technique. Forneus was overwhelmed and tried to stop her, but Tetra didn't listen. She buried her claws into the fake Kane. Forneus coughed up blood and his transformation ended. He asked how Tetra knew he wasn't the real Kane. Tetra reminded him of his distinct smell, which she easily recognized. Before she could explain further, Forneus fired powerful water bullets at her. Tetra quickly dodged and said that her master Kane was much weaker than Forneus. She added that if it had been the real Kane, she wouldn't have even bothered defending herself. Forneus couldn't believe that Tetra had chosen to serve someone weaker than her. He asked why she had changed her mind when she was already a Beastkin general. Fornos then created ice spears and attacked Tetra. She couldn't move and was hit by the spears. Tetra told Forneus he would understand if Kane had also saved his life. Forneus didn't believe her and accused her of talking nonsense. He said her foolish loyalty would end and made the ice spears around her explode like bombs. Tetra couldn't defend herself and was badly injured. She regretted not attacking Forneus earlier. She couldn't sense his presence or figure out how to fight back. Forneus looked down at her and called her unlucky. At that moment, both demon generals felt a wave of killing intent. Anna stepped forward and called out to the Earl and his group. She introduced herself by her noble title and gave them 2 seconds to drop their weapons if they wanted to stay alive. That is the end of the recap chapter 12. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.